How do we use a collaborative process to do projects differently and better? Innovative rural development happens when all organizations in public, private, and civil society sectors shift their focus to how they show up in relationships with people. Welcome to my presentation, Collaboration and Consultation. Let's disrupt the script. First, a land acknowledgement. I am holding this presentation today in the traditional land and home of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee people, past and present. I also want to acknowledge those who made their home here involuntarily, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. This is an act of grounding and gratitude, and it is a reminder that while we were born into a culture of injustice, we do not need to co-sign it. I'm using my life and work for person-centered action without extraction practices to co-create equitable and justice-centered communities. And I invite you and your project teams and organizations to do the same. To co-create is to innovate. When organizations learn how to engage people through thoughtful collaboration, the relationships between people generate resolutions for the economic and social well-being of rural citizens. And when we hear the words collaboration, consultation, engagement, we hear them a lot. And we hear them because we have good intentions. And these words are often used or misused in conflict with what the behaviors and practices are required to uphold their meanings. We're here today to think critically, to get curious, disrupt the script that limits innovation and sustainable action. So first, who am I? I am Dana Kalyzny, and I am the founder of Social Impact Projects. I facilitate workshops and consulting with project teams and organizations who want support integrating a different and better approach to organizing their projects. For those who are curious, compassionate, and eager to get work done through a social justice lens right now. My approach is more than getting the work done. It's about social impact. And when I say social impact, I mean the ripple effect from learning to show up differently and better in our relationship to ourselves, our work, our colleagues, and community members while getting work done. Social impact matters in every industry, and every project can be a social impact project. It's about centering people. It's about as many people as possible feeling engaged, motivated, respected, and heard. It's about co-creating a shared vision before creating a plan and doing activities and tasks. I believe this is what collaboration looks and feels like, and it is the foundation of a social impact project. Let me tell you why. Some background. I learned firsthand the consequences of organizations moving fast and the dangers of how this plays out in formal conventions of consultation, of the misleading engagement opportunities that invite participation, but are not actually interested in what people without power and influence have to say or how they feel. On my parental leave after the birth of my first son, my department, which I was the lead of, was restructured, including my job role. While I was on leave, I was asked to come to the boardroom and discuss the changes. I walked into the boardroom believing I was there to collaborate about the organizational restructuring and my proposed new job. I mean, I was invited by executive leadership to discuss and specifically consult on changes. Let's talk it out is what they said. And it seemed to me an opportunity to connect and collaborate. Within minutes, I realized what I had actually walked into: a formality. It wasn't sincere. And worse, this discussion was a disguise for a conversation really about demonstrating their power over me. They had their plan. They knew best. They were not there to hear what I had to say. I was there to understand that whatever power I thought I had, I did not have any of it. And if any of this feels familiar to you, or you've seen this happen to others, you have witnessed the difference between consultation and collaboration. We have to see the script for what it is first, before we think about how we may disrupt it. What are often well-established engagement practices are formalities. We see it at city and town council meetings, at board meetings, community public forums, user groups created to validate a project plan that don't actually take into account the feedback and then reflect later how that feedback was actually valid to begin with. An example, I attended a community engagement forum led by a planning consulting firm overseeing a municipal official plan review. It was a virtual event held on a weekday at 1 p.m. They mentioned engagement was low and restricted to a similar demographic of people who kept showing up to these types of meetings. When I asked about the different types of outreach they were undertaking to include the missing voices and perspectives of working families and individuals with different demographics, the lead planner responded, "The way I see it, the opportunity is there for those to take it. I was told to submit ideas to the consulting firm to consider for future outreach and encouraged to organize a working group or public event that I could invite them to. Is this a formality that alienates people, their thoughts, experiences, and feelings, or collaboration committed to nurturing people and their ideas?" This is the question we need to ask ourselves in these situations, ideally in the thoughtful process of planning collaboration. If someone goes into a conversation with a plan already in mind, an attitude that this is what we are doing, there is no we. This is not what collaboration looks and feels like. And understanding collaboration requires addressing power and influence and how that affects collaboration. It's not when those in a position of power, people with influence and authority, most likely have already decided what happens next, regardless of what they hear from others during consultation. People see through that, and when they experience it once, it erodes trust for future engagement. Now, let's understand a little bit of some of the social conditioning that's happening in these situations. And it's important, again, to acknowledge that we all, I include myself in this, were born into systems of oppression and actively need to reflect on, unlearn, and do better. So when people experience discomfort, grappling with complex problems, they tend to want to do anything other than being still. Aiko Bethia, with her work on building inclusivity at work, describes this as an action or fix-it bias. This is social conditioning of white supremacy culture. Transformation needs to be relational, meaning, in the words of Adrienne Marie Brown, we need to work at the speed of trust, developing trusting relationships with people. And again, while we were born into systems of injustices, we do not need to co-sign them. By disrupting the script, we move towards transformational work, and we also need to disrupt the action bias. So let's look at a couple case studies where it can be done differently and better. In this case, it was a collaborative grant process. The process for applying for and receiving grants may unintentionally limit collaboration, community building, and social impact. At the end of 2020, 11 community partners operating food programs in South Georgian Bay united to share $20,000 worth of grocery gift cards from Community Food Centre Canada's Good Food Access Fund. The original intent was for one organization to receive the grant. This is an unfortunate reality of many grant opportunities that result in competition and resource hoarding. Instead, local organizations committed to doing this project differently and better, and the leadership for the project took time first to understand all of the organizations who may benefit, creating an exhaustive list of contacts. Then we broadened our reach to ensure we were not missing any voices. Then we connected with everyone to notify them of the opportunity. Everyone interested gathered in a series of meetings to openly discuss their food access needs and the amount of money they would like from the grant to fulfill those needs. The result was that we equitably divided up the total grant, meaning organizations received different amounts of grocery cards depending on the needs of the people they serve. Some participants and organizations made lasting relationships for future projects. Everyone learned more about the different realities of food insecurity locally. Most importantly, we were able to extend the reach of the grant to more people served by each of the organizations, more people with grocery money and less food insecurity. Formality or collaboration? Another case study, this time generating a collaborative project scope. E3 Community Services is a not-for-profit social enterprise and one of the largest employers in South Georgian Bay. They offer a variety of programs and services across the development sector, and they support people with disabilities and their families. We work together in the development of their first ever integrated volunteer program, using a collaborative engagement process to generate project scope. 23 people, including staff and board members, people who work in other developmental sector organizations and or volunteer programs, and people supported and family members of those with disabilities participated in a one-on-one conversation with me over 6 weeks. Participants were either selected by E3 leadership or recommended through an organic referral process by previous participants. Intersectionality of diverse identities, backgrounds, life experiences, and relationships to the disability community were prioritized. Conversations with participants started with an open mind to see what would evolve and come from that conversation. And they were all grounded by 2 questions. What are memorable stories and experiences with past and current community engagement? And what do they think integrated volunteering with E3 could look and feel like? Most importantly, we were intentional about creating a space where everyone could show up as they are. This meant explicitly telling participants that we welcomed the conversation to move in tangents, flowing as we talked together, and letting them know that we trusted that those tangents most likely would be relevant and supportive to the big picture visioning process. The result is a comprehensive collaborative project scope with a work plan that felt amazing in its creation and is also actionable. Buy-in for this project is high. People at E3 and the participants and the people they have talked to, they generated a buzz of excitement for this project. The process also confirmed that there's no need to reinvent volunteer programming in an area fortunate to have existing social opportunities and organizations with well-established and growing volunteer opportunities eager for collaboration. We didn't need to create a silo. We could work with other organizations with E3's participation, enhancing inclusive volunteering. Formality or collaboration? By simply doing things the way they've always been done, which may include continuing the cycle of white supremacy culture, we rob ourselves and the people in our communities of transformational experiences. It leaves no room to be creative. Does this matter? Yes. Does this work take more time than what is common? Sure does. Substantially more time? Not with practice or by deferring this work to others within your organization or outside of your organization, to those who have relational skills and where it would bring them a sense of pride and purpose doing the work. Is this work hard? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today. Ironically, with the format of this presentation, I'm talking at you. So this presentation is meant to be a catalyst for further conversation. I would love to hear from you, and I would absolutely love to collaborate with you. Connect with me at www.danakalyzny.com.